Aisha wants to get married like 3 more times.
Maybe.
I want at least 2. I need to catch up to her. As women, we are very challenging creatures, much more than men.
But then when I look at it, people ask me, you've been married twice. Would you obviously, and they assume, right, because it didn't work out twice, that I am against marriage.
My ex-husband was a hell of a teacher for me. Namaste, amigos. This is Vanessa and Aisha, 2 wildly passionate women coming to you from opposite sides of the world, Australia and Mexico. This podcast is for you, about you, all of us, all women from all walks of lives, sharing our stories, our truths, our struggles, as we uplift, transform, break boundaries, and grow.
Okay, guys, welcome back. Today's episode, we're actually going to talk a little bit about why we're doing this podcast and how we see, our beliefs in relation to being single parents, what's out there, how people view us, and do we relate to that, when the 2 major sides that I think a lot of single women fall into. Vanessa, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's basically 2 major sides in this. The one side reflects a single parent or a single mum who's pretty broken. She's alone, she's a loner, she's very dependent. She might have issues with her weight. She doesn't feel good about herself. She's very needy. And then you've got the extreme end of the scale, which is, also about the feminist. And, I'm here to prove now, because I was broken and because I got abandoned and hurt, now I'm going to, literally put on a shield and I'm going to take over the world, and I don't feel anymore, and I don't want to love, and I don't want to have a relationship. And so you've got these 2 contradicting aspects of what, a lot of people think single parenting or single parents fall into. And it's quite funny because you were talking to someone, right? And we were talking about the podcast, and they were loving what you were saying, but they thought that you had a tendency to come from a feminist side, right? That we were doing this because we wanted to now say, hey, we've had failed marriages, we're single parents, and now we don't need men, and we don't believe in, the thing of marriage. And we sort of laughed at that. We thought, oh my God, no, we actually don't feel that. And we think the very, very opposite. And our whole intention about this podcast and what we wanted to portray is all about being empowered, right? And developing ourselves so that whatever choice we make, it's coming from that place, not coming from the conditions and the beliefs. Is that what you reckon as well?
I think so. I think it's very much this. I'll go a little bit further with that. I think it's not only empowering, but in giving women the right set of tools. I think it's having the right set of tools to enter relationships, to enter marriage, to enter motherhood, because we are sold on an idea that is not accurate. And I don't even think we have it very clear in our own heads what it's supposed to look like or be like. And then when we fall straight on our heads, we are now dependent financially, dependent on what we have kids, and we're all alone, and we don't have support, and it's not particularly just heading into divorce. I think marriage on its own has its battles and its challenges. And I think as women, we are very challenging creatures, much more than men. And so it's just really speaking from a very authentic place of how crazy I was able to become in my whole journey, and what tools I would have really liked to have, or not only having the well, you should go to counseling, and or you need to stick it through because now you're married. I think there needs to be, I think some of these conversations that we are going to be having are amazing for people to hear, because there are a lot of things that go into building a relationship with your husband, with your partner, with your wife, with your kids, and with your family that you're marrying into. And it has not only to do with the relationships that you're building, but everything that has to go along when two people come together. So their finances, their expectations, their religion, or their spiritual route that they're on, their dreams. And I think that we are trying to come from a place where we're here more to tell our stories from where we went wrong with them, and to give some tools of, hey, if I could do it over again, or when I do it over again, this is what I'm going to look out for, or this is how I will walk this road.
I think even before the fact that I can get to the place of, if I do it over again, I do notice within my own self that I went through that initial stage of build the armor, build the layers of protection, and I'm here to prove a point and stuff. But I get that just comes out of pure hurt, or like just the pain of something falling apart. But then when I look at it, people ask me, you've been married twice. You obviously, and they assume, right, because it didn't work out twice, that I am against marriage. And I was like, hell no, I loved marriage. I loved it. And I feel like that's what people don't understand. They put so much pressure on the marriage itself, and they don't realize within that unity of marriage, you have to grow, right? So it's not just that I'm married now and I leave it up to marriage. It's like, I'm married now. Maybe I didn't grow at a certain level. Maybe my partner didn't grow at a certain level. Maybe together we was just separately growing, right? So I'm definitely not against marriage and relationships. And I think that's where a lot of people can't understand this, because they think that because it didn't work out these two times, and for you one time, that we are somewhat against that sort of, and even that traditional setup, right? I loved being at home and stay at home mum and looking after my kids. So I reckon a lot of people assume that, just because we've been married, we're against that traditional setup of being at home, looking after my kids, or being a stay-at-home mum. I enjoyed every single bit, and it was a conscious choice. The only difference is I would add a little bit to myself there. I would not actually, avoid financial conversations. I would include myself in that. I would maybe grow in other aspects, so that all round I'm still developing as an individual. I think I gave into the marriage as an identity, and I stopped growing individually. And that's what I want to really, really do with this podcast, is say, hey, have the marriage you want, like go down the traditional aspect if you want. Do not forget to keep growing on an individual level within that. I think most of us, what we do is we fall into the trap of just thinking once we're in that sort of sanctum, we let loose, right? Hands up, we let go. We stop growing. We just let the marriage do what it's got to do. And that's what I'm here to.
Let the other one take over.
Yeah, absolutely. Or the other one take over.
Driver's seat.
Yep, absolutely. So that is what I really, really want to, that's my intention for this podcast, is to not against marriage or that traditional marriage, or, you know, whatever you define your relationship to be. It's more that this time I'm consciously going to be there, and I'm going to work on myself. You know, I've learned a lot. Like, I've just like, this is about my growth. How can I best show up in this situation? Not what is this situation doing for me, or what
Right.
is that person doing for me? It's going to be, how do I best show up? Right?
And how am I showing up with this person? Right?
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, and I keep saying it again and again, and I will repeat it. My ex-husband was a hell of a teacher for me. So it is really, when you want to say how ugly is the other person, how ugly are you being in this moment that you can actually say that? Because we're usually mirror and mirror.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, there's exceptions, mind you, but usually when you're going down in your marriage, it doesn't look pretty from either side.
Yep. Yep. And I think it's to get our power back. And people think, you know, that's a lot of responsibility. But, you know, you also get freedom, and you also get empowered by taking that responsibility. You know, we're not crying the victim line. We're not singing that song. You do go through moments when you feel that, and that's cool, right? But to stay in it is a choice.
Yeah.
Then again, you got the other side, like I said, you know, here to prove a point and make a statement about how independent I am. You're going to suffer, right? Because you're going to also block out a lot of love, you know, because you're coming from that place of like protection and I don't want to be hurt again. So, you know, like, and it's okay to feel that for a while again, but you can't live in that state. You're only going to deprive yourself of your happiness and your fullness, you know, and your kids. Kids are going to feel it. They're going to grow up in that environment.
And you're
And I think,
going to attract the same exact partner that with that same fear, you will attract the same one you left behind.
yeah. So I think, you know, we both wanted our listeners and our viewers to know that this podcast is about being able to grow and develop into a whole amazing self through the journey of separation and divorce and single parenting. You know, how you don't have to pick either one of those sides, but actually take the lessons and then grow from it, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. I think this is it.
That's it. So guys, let us know what you think, and please leave us some comments. Have you had any experience where you have felt like you have fitted into or fallen into those category of like victimization, or you wanted to prove a point after your breakup? You know, it happens to all of us, and we would love to hear your stories, because, you know, the stories is what connects us, and it actually makes us feel like we're doing this all together. So it's important you guys leave us comments and feedback, and we shall see you next time, guys. So thanks, Vanessa, and we'll see you again.
Bye.
See ya.